Shocking truth, real macabre stories that haunt the dead at 3 a.m., never told before. As the clock struck 3, when shadows danced on the walls, unseen forces awoke. In the stillness of night, the air crackled with an energy so thick you could almost taste it. People dared to whisper tales of the grave, entangled with secrets that sent chills down the spine. Imagine wandering through a forgotten graveyard, mist curling around your ankles, and hearing whispers of souls who never found peace. Heart racing, you look back, only to find nothing but your own heartbeat hammering in your ears. It's not just a story, it's a reality that grips the dark recesses of our minds. They say at 3 a.m., the veil between our world and the other side is paper-thin. Legends erupt from the cracks, beckoning the curious and the haunted alike. A sleeping town once whispered of a specter, a woman in white, who roamed the empty streets. Those who dared claim she called them by name, a chilling serenade that echoed through the night. What could she possibly want? It was said that if you stared too long into her vacant eyes, you could see the sorrow of 1,000 nights. Not one soul returned unchanged. Then there are the shadows beneath the old oak tree, the one that's been there longer than anyone can remember. It sways eerily in the wind, even when the air is still. The townspeople talk about strange happenings there, animals that refuse to cross its threshold, children's laughter that turns to screams, and an unsettling chill that makes your hair stand on end. It was a meeting point for the lost and the restless. A family once held a picnic near that tree, only to vanish without a trace. Their laughter still echoes. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. But as the tales wound tighter around the night, one question lingered in the fog: what truly lies beyond when the clock chimes 3? Are we mere mortals, or are we all part of a grander design woven through the shadows? The truth could awaken something dark, something that yearns to break free from the beyond. The moon hung heavy, casting an otherworldly glow, and with every second ticking away, the answers awaited just out of reach, begging to be uncovered. Would you dare to find out what happened next? The darkness deepened, as if it were a living entity, breathing life into the secrets buried beneath the earth. And yet, curiosity pulled at the edges of fear, urging footsteps toward the forgotten graveyard. Each step sent an echo through the stillness, a reminder of past lives buried just out of sight. Beneath a gnarled tree, the air turned dense, electric. It felt as if the ground itself was whispering, "Listen close, something stirs." As the seconds passed, a figure emerged from the mist. The woman in white. Her dress flowed like water, pale against the shadowy backdrop, giving her an ethereal presence. The stories painted her as tragic, but standing before her, a different sensation seeped into the soul, a mix of sorrow and irresistible draw. She looked straight at you, her face unreadable yet heavy with an unspoken story. A shiver danced along your spine. "Help me," her voice echoed, weaving through the thick fog and curling around the heart. Was it truly a plea, or a beckoning? Those who had wandered too close claimed that once her eyes locked with yours, an urge to follow replaced any thought of caution. Your heart raced. It was as though every fiber of your being heard the enticing call, and every warning screamed to resist. Could it be true? Had those lost souls seen something in her gaze, something that haunted them for eternity? Questions churned in your mind, each one heavier than the last, merging into the thick air. Then came a rustle from the hollow beneath the old oak tree. A low growl, a scratching noise. Something was alive beneath the surface, seeking to break free. An animal? Or something more sinister? The hairs on your arms stood at attention. You couldn't tell whether to run or stay, your instincts tearing you in different directions. Out of the straining silence, a voice pierced through the voice of a child. "Mommy?" The soft cry echoed, innocent and chilling. It was before the picnic, before the family vanished. Was it a mere reflection of the past, or was something drawn to this hour, desperate for release? "Mommy." The voice rose again, heavy with fear and longing. Every parent's instinct pulled at your core. You wanted to save them, to dive into the shadows and pull the child back into safety. But the woman in white stood immovable, a door to anguish and desire, her gaze fixated on you, entrapping you. With each passing moment, the world seemed to pause. You stood at the edge of decision: pursue the sound and risk what waited beneath the tree, or succumb to the eerie embrace of the spectre, drawn into her sorrowful dance. A gust of wind howled, and the figure of the woman wavered. The child's voice grew louder, frantic. Reality began to distort, and it felt like the very fabric of time unraveled. Were you ready to confront the truth hiding in these shadows? What if it shattered everything you thought you knew? And as the clock chimed 3 again, the ground trembled beneath your feet. What awaited on the other side could either set you free or ensnare you forever, leaving you wondering if you'd made the right choice. Would you dare take that first step into the unknown? The air thickened, growing heavy with suspense. Your heart thundered, drowning out the distant whispers of the graveyard. The child's cries clawed at your insides, each plea laced with desperation. It was a sound too pure, too innocent for this haunting place. You glanced back, but the woman in white held you captive, her presence an intoxicating mixture of fear and fascination. What was it about her that made your blood run cold, and yet set your soul ablaze? You wanted to move, yet the ground felt like quicksand beneath your feet. Fight or flight. It was the instinct all humans knew, but in this moment, it merged with a bizarre allure, a twisted desire to unravel whatever mystery entwined this spectre. "Mommy!" The wail pierced through the fog again, urgent and soaked in panic. A burst of bravery surged through you, the instinct to save stronger than the fear. You took a step toward the sound, compelled forward by a force you couldn't comprehend. The woman flinched, her gaze sharpening with a mixture of warning and something else: longing. The scratching from beneath the oak grew frantic, drowning 3 more chimes of the clock. With each scratch, a pulse rose from the earth, harmonizing with the child's cry, merging the layers of past and present into one overwhelming chorus. Seconds felt like hours, each heartbeat a reminder that whatever haunted this ground was alive and waiting for you. You stepped closer to the tree, your feet moving with a mind of their own, and suddenly the fog lifted just a fraction. It revealed a square patch of earth, disturbed and muddy, pleading for release. Fear gripped your throat. What lay beneath the surface? Your breath quickened as the thought of the child, trapped and scared, fought against the pull of the woman in white. The urgency made the air electric, like static before a storm. You reached down, hands trembling, and brushed aside the disordered leaves. What if you were opening a door that should have remained closed? The ground groaned, shifting with your touch. A small, delicate hand pushed through the dirt. You gasped, pulling back. Was this real? "Help me, please." The child's voice, once distant, was now a whisper echoing in your mind like a siren's call. You were filled with a rush of protectiveness, a pulsing need to save, to shield this innocent from whatever shadows lingered in the dark. The child's fingers clawed at the surface, panic-stricken, as if they were grasping for light, for life, for you. But just as you reached forward, the woman's voice broke through, thin and tight with restraint. Do not disturb what sleeps." You hesitated, a knot forming deep in your stomach. Was this a rescue or a trap? "Mommy! I can't breathe." The child's pleas grew frantic again, and your resolve flickered. Each minute felt like an eternity. The choice hung heavy in the air between you, each moment dripping with tension. Could you ignore the cries of a child? Could you risk angering the entity that may hold sway over the living and the dead? You closed your eyes for a fleeting second, wrestling with your heart and mind. And in that beat, the ground shook violently, sending tremors through your body. Should you dig deeper and risk unleashing something far worse, or take the spectre's warning and turn away, leaving the child to fate? The air bristled, as though waiting for your decision. In that moment, choice and consequence collided, and just as you steeled yourself for action, a chilling laugh echoed from the depths beneath. What would you choose? And what terror awaited you if you dared to disobey? The ground beneath you roared as though it was alive. Panic surged through your veins, a shot of adrenaline that sent you reeling. What had you awoken? The woman in white drew closer, each step echoing in the silence like the ticking of a bomb. Her face tightened, morphing from sadness to something darker. You could almost feel her energy, the weight of despair coiling like a serpent ready to strike. Do not test her. Her voice slithered through the fog, each word a warning that rattled your bones. You know not what you bring forth. But the child's cries drowned out her warning, an almost primal instinct stirring inside you. Help me. It wasn't just a plea now, it held a note of fury, barely contained and ready to explode. The oak tree twisted in the wind, gnarled branches clawing at the sky like the desperate grasp of a prisoner. Shadows danced around its base, creeping closer, hungry. The laughter, the echo of unease that followed you grew louder, a symphony of madness beneath the ground. You looked back to the woman, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears, a storm of emotions masked beneath the surface. In that moment, you saw it, her sadness wasn't just for the child. It was for all that had come before, all the souls tied to this cursed earth. You must make your choice now. Her voice broke through your haze like a crash of thunder. Every instinct told you to run, to save yourself from whatever dark magic suffocated this grave. But once again, the cries broke through, I'm scared. Please. They were growing desperate, vibrating in your bones like the ominous heartbeat of the earth itself. You could feel the cold air wrap around you, a shroud that threatened to pull you down into the depths where darkness reigned. You dropped to your knees, hands burrowing into the damp soil. Digging. Against all reason, you dug deeper, clumps of dirt flying, the earth pushing back as though it resisted your intrusion. Suddenly, a shrill scream erupted from below, an otherworldly sound that sent shivers racing through your spine. Something stirred beneath the surface, thrashing wildly. Faster. The apparition urged, her voice now barely more than a whisper, but it clawed at your resolve. The ground shifted again, twisting violently as a figure began to break free, a mass of shadows and whispers. The child's cries turned into a cacophony, rising to a pitch that threatened to shatter your very soul. It felt as if time stood still, the world spun around you, drowning in shadow and screams. Just as you thought you held on to a flicker of hope, the ground exploded. A wave of darkness surged forth, swallowing light, reason, and sanity. A face emerged from the shadows, a twisted visage, eyes black and fathomless, filled with fury and pain. You've awakened what should not be. And with a final, piercing wail, the child's hand shot up, grasping at the air, and just like that, everything came to a standstill. The laughter faded, the shadows recoiling as if waiting for your next move. In that moment, you stood on the precipice of terrifying choices, and the weight of the world pressed down upon your shoulders. Could you seal the darkness again? Could you possibly save the child? Or would you succumb to the entity that swirled at the boundaries of your vision, a hunger beyond comprehension? Your heart raced as you took a step back, facing a reality too monstrous to accept. But the tug of the child still cried out, a melody entwined with the madness, and you had to decide, would you plunge deeper into the unknown, or retreat from a fate which promised torment, putting your faith in the very specter that threatened you? The ground trembled, a heartbeat waiting for your answer. What awaited you beyond this choice? The answer felt closer, yet darted just beyond your grasp, teasing you with its promise of revelation. The air thickened, heavy with dread and expectation. Doubt gripped your heart like a vice. The shadowy figure that had clawed its way into the world loomed larger, more monstrous than you could imagine. The child's cries morphed, now layered with an insistent whisper that dawdled in the back of your mind. Help me please, I can't, don't leave me. Why are you still here? The woman's voice sliced through the turbulence, sharp and echoing. Her eyes flickered with urgency, mixing compassion and fear. You must understand the consequences of your actions. Consequences. The word wrapped itself around you, suffocating. With your heart pounding, you flung another handful of dirt aside, desperate to expose the source of those tormented cries. The ground trembled beneath you, echoing warnings you couldn't ignore. Run. You may still escape. Her voice mingled with the wails, weaving a frantic tapestry that demanded action. But what awaited you if you turned away? Would the darkness swallow the child whole? What if you were the only hope? A part of you surged with an immense sense of responsibility, fueled by the raw power of maternal instinct. Help me. The child shouted again, the passion igniting a fire within you that burned brighter than the fear. You couldn't back down. Not now. Not when you were this close. In a surge of adrenaline, you lunged forward, your fingers clawing at the soil. Grime filled your nails, the chill of the earth biting at your skin. As you dug deeper, the shadows shifted, writhing as if in protest. The air was electric, charged with the weight of your decisions. A gasp echoed from within the ground, sudden, fierce. The figure thrashing beneath the surface grew desperate, and your heart constricted. This wasn't just a child, it was a manifestation of innocent vulnerability. You had to save them. Don't let go, you shouted, your voice brittle against the encroaching darkness. A pulse hummed in the ground, thrumming with energy, alive with a will of its own. But that anguished face emerged a blend of torment and fury in its enigmatic gaze. You think you can fight what has begun? The chains of this place bind more than you know. With every heartbeat, the shadows swirled, creeping toward you, fingers of darkness eager to steal you away. You felt the temperature drop, a bone-chilling reminder of the malevolence that pulsed in this cursed land. Suddenly, the earth convulsed violently, you lost your balance and staggered backward as a blinding light erupted from the ground. It pierced through the darkness, illuminating everything in a blaring array of unsettling glows. And in that moment of brilliance, the child appeared, suspended in radiant energy. Help me. The desperation and raw emotion in that voice shattered you. Every instinct screamed for action, but the air grew thick with chaos. The woman in white had not left your side, her presence a paradox of comfort and warning. Your choice resonates with all this realm holds. Make it wisely. Her words sliced through the chaos, anchoring you just as the shadows lunged for your soul, eager to drag you into an eternal abyss. The child's hand reached out, fingers trembling, an anchor tethered to your reality. Don't leave me. At that moment, you had to decide, would you leap into that radiant light, risking everything to save the child? Or would you succumb to the shadows, surrendering your fate to an ancient evil tethered to the earth? The ground roared once more, a primal sound bursting forth like the last breath of a dying beast. Time slowed, your breath caught in your throat. Would you dare take the leap of faith, or would fear claim you, allowing the darkness to reign? And just as the light began to fade, a sinister laugh emerged from the shadows, the chilling promise of chaos echoing in the depths of your mind. The light pulsed, tangible and alive, wrapping around your outstretched hand like a warm embrace. You felt its energy surge through you, filling every corner of your soul with confusing warmth in the midst of biting cold. But as the shadows lunged forward, almost tasting your fear, the child's cry shattered the moment. Please don't leave me. You could see the desperation etched on that innocent face, eyes wide with terror and hope. It was an out-of-time plea that reached deep into the well of your being. Could you really turn away? As the shadows clawed at you, insistent tendrils grasped at your feet, pulling you into the void of uncertainty. Instinctively, you took a step forward. Trust me. The woman in white screamed, her voice rising above the cacophony of anguish. You saw her terror mirrored in her eyes, yet a glimmer of hope shone through. Could it be that the truth lay not in retreat, but in stepping forward? With a surge of courage, you lunged into the light. For a split second, everything fell silent. You were suspended in a vacuum of luminance, where time seemed irrelevant, and pain was just a whisper. Then, in an explosive moment of sensation, the weight of the world fell back into place, you landed on solid ground, but everything had changed. The child was there, but so were the shadows now crouched closer, seething with impatience. Their forms twisted and flickered, hungry for the energy you carried and the light you had embraced. The air burned as if charged with electricity, crackling menacingly. The child's eyes found yours, reflecting a depth of anguish that shattered your heart. They won't let you leave, help me, a desperation clawed at you, thrumming in tune with the shadows, each pulse pulling you further into an overwhelming dread. But as you locked eyes with the child, it dawned on you that this wasn't just a fight against darkness, it was a battle for your soul, a question of sacrifice. "They're stronger than you think," the ominous voice whispered, echoing from the shadows. "Once you step into the light, the choices are made, and so are the consequences." You could sense the truth lingering in their menacing tones. The woman in white moved beside you, whispering urgently, "The bond you create now will dictate everything. Don't take this lightly. Choose wisely." The child's trembling hand reached out again, pulling you back to the urgency of the moment. "Help me. I can't break free without you." The shadows writhed in rhythm with the child's cries, tightening their grip like a noose. They were feeding off your hesitation. Could fear deny you the chance to rescue that innocent soul? Deep within, your maternal instinct screamed that failure wasn't an option. You inhaled deeply, despite the tightening in your chest. The child needed you. You could feel it. Their very existence depended on your resolve. With a determined roar, you surged forward, reaching for the child, your fingertips brushing against theirs, awakening a connection that sent shocks of energy through both of you. But the shadows recoiled, screaming in defiance. The darkness roared, a monster awakened. "Foolish choice." The sinister shadow spat, its voice laced with fury. "You defy the fates. Shall you join their chains?" Ignoring the shadows clawing at your mind, you focused solely on the child, pulling them closer, willing yourself to intertwine your essence with theirs. The moment your fingers locked, the chaotic energy erupted, illuminating everything in a blinding splendor, but as the light enveloped you both, an ear-piercing shriek shattered the veil of peace, the shadows convulsing in agony. They thrashed violently, wailing as if losing a part of themselves. It was then that you realized what was at stake. Your choice could shift the balance between light and darkness. Could you break the chains binding the child? Would your sacrifice for one innocent soul be enough to hold back the tide of this consuming nightmare? As the shadows pressed harder, it became a race against time. What if you faltered? What if this moment of light quickly faded, leaving nothing but darkness in its wake? In that breathless instant, just before the final confrontation, the shadows whispered their terrible truth. You think you can save them? What if you're wrong? The moment your fingers clasped the child's, a rush of energy flowed between you like a lightning strike, sparking memories, fears, and dreams that had been locked away. The warmth heightened, wrapping you both in security against the chilling grasp of the shadows. The chaos swelled, becoming a tempest, thrilling and terrifying. "Keep holding on," you urged the child, your voice strong despite the trembling in your heart. The shadows recoiled momentarily, their screeches mingling with your words. But their fury flared again, and they lunged, grappling for the bond you forged. The very ground beneath you quaked as if sensing the battle brewing. "Do you truly believe this bond can save you?" The sinister shadow growled, its tone mocking. "Chains may bend, but they will not break." You locked eyes with the child, who was trembling but steadfast. Their gaze flickered with determination. "I won't let go. I know you're strong." Strength surged in your chest. You could feel the essence of the light crackling through you, fighting against the chains threatening to suffocate this innocent life. With every ounce of willpower, you tightened your grip. The shadows shrieked like banshees, angry at your defiance, the dark wisps trying to wrap around your ankles like tendrils of doubt. Then, amid the chaos, the woman in white raised her hands, summoning the light with an intensity that momentarily banished the dark. "Fight for your bond. Invoke the strength of love that resides within." Her commanding voice blazed through the clamor. The child's small hand trembled in yours, and the light swelled like an uprising tide, illuminating every crevice of the dark void. You felt embers of hope spark, aching for victory. Yet, the shadows retaliated, launching themselves in a whirlwind of fury. They shrieked, furious tongues flicking in jealously as they clawed at the edges of your resolve. Fool! You think love can shield you? The voice rumbled menacingly. You will feed our hunger, and the child will be lost. Sweat beaded at your brow, panic clawed at your insides. The shadow's chilling whispers wrapped around your spine, aiming to undo everything you fought for. You began to wonder, what if your love wasn't enough? What if you had misjudged the power of darkness that slithered within? As the shadows recoiled again, you sensed that within their twisted forms lay truths of sorrow. They were creations of despair, encased in a web of pain. Suddenly, a thought flickered in your mind: could their power be transformed? Could their shadows reveal the light hidden within? Child! You exclaimed, speaking the words out loud, rallying your focus back to the moment. What if the shadows can be freed too? The child's eyes widened in confusion, then flickered with understanding. We have to show them the light, show them they're not alone. The very notion sparked a new wave of energy between you. As the shadows rushed towards, you summoned every ounce of love you felt, your heart bursting with compassion. Let there be light. You shouted, your voice drumming against the threshold of despair. Then, you concentrated, channeling everything, your love, your fears, and every spark of hope into the cocoon surrounding you both. The shadows halted, perplexed, but the dark creatures were resilient. They shrieked in agony as your brightness blazed, warping their forms in ways unimaginable. No! They wailed, the darkness contorting and shrinking. You cannot save them, they must linger in despair. But your heart was stronger than the shadows' vile protest. With each pulse of bright energy, they crumbled, fighting against the light pouring outward. The child squinted against the brilliance but held tight, emboldened by your faith. Then, suddenly, a screaming figure broke away from the mass, an anguished shadow, dripping with sorrow, and trailing darkness like a haunting specter. You will pay for this! It shrieked, charging at you with a ferocious velocity. As the shadows dissolved around you and chaos reigned, a chilling realization hit you: the form was familiar, intertwined with your past. Who or what was this? Just as you braced for impact, the child's voice rang clear. Together, we can conquer the darkness. Could your bond be strong enough? Would your light overpower this vengeful shadow? The moment hung suspended in air, heavy with uncertainty. Would you both falter? Or would love's truth become the beacon that cut through the encroaching dark? The twisting dark coiled closer, and you held your breath, the imminent collision sparking an electric tension charged with fear and desperation. The collision came like thunder, a force that rattled your very soul. The moment the shadow lunged forward, a scream ripped through the air, a haunting cry that echoed your own worst fears. The feeling of cold dread threatened to wrap around you both. But there was no time to hesitate, no room for doubt. Now! You shouted over the din, your voice breaking like a whip. You squeezed the child's hand tighter, feeling the small bones flexing under the pressure, and sent everything you had, every bit of love and courage, streaming into that bond. The light you summoned exploded like fireworks in the night sky, pushing back the encroaching darkness a little further this time, sparking moments of clarity in the chaos. The child's eyes shone with a fierce light, reflecting the energy pulsing between you, and suddenly, fear began to shift into something else. Hope.as the familiar shadow drew closer, it morphed, taking on the visage of someone you once loved. The heartache twisted in your chest. It was a face you had long buried, a reminder of pain that you never thought you'd face again. No. Not you. The words slipped out before you could stop them. The shadow paused, its face a mask of sorrow, a frown etched deeper than the darkness surrounding it. You abandoned me, it hissed, venom dripping from each word. No. I loved you. You shouted back, voice trembling. I thought I lost you. I thought I had to let you go. An instant of recognition flickered across the shadow's features. Eyes that had once looked upon you with warmth now burned with a swirling tempest of rage and despair. And what did that love bring me? Nothing but darkness. Something broke in you. The realization hit hard. This wasn't just a battle against shadows, it was a confrontation with your past. You have to see. You don't have to stay in darkness. There's light, even in despair. The child's grip tightened around your hand, their determination infectious. You're not alone. They cried. We can help you find the way back. Those words reverberated through the air, and for a split second, time hung still. The shriek of the shadows faded into murmurs, their malicious energy faltering. Could it be that the chain of despair could be snapped? Could love reach even the darkest of souls? But just as the shadow began to waver, a pulse of darkness surged behind it. The remaining shadows channeled their hatred into a whirlpool of fury, lunging forward with the ferocity of a wild animal. Their hunger was insatiable. Foolish mortals. The original shadow growled, its voice dripping with disdain. You dare think compassion will win against centuries of torment? Your heart raced. Would you both lose everything, or would the light ever truly triumph? The binding energy between you and the child throbbed fiercely, pulling the fragile threads of hope from the depths. We can break the chains of despair. You screamed, pouring every ounce of emotion you possessed into your words. Reach for the light. With that proclamation, the air thickened, charged with unyielding power. You felt the child embrace the intensity, and together, you thrust forward into the fray. A blinding flash erupted, driven by the strength of your bond, illuminating everything around you. The shadows screamed, entirely unprepared for the wave of energy crashing toward them. You could feel the fracture, the breaking down of evil, as if reality itself was bending to the sheer force of love and hope. But then, just as victory seemed within reach, the familiar shadow's face twisted back into rage. You'll regret this. It hissed, and darkness surged again, more intense, more frantic. The moment stretched, filled with the question gnawing at the edges of your consciousness. What kind of cost would freedom demand? Would you pay that price? Was your light enough to overcome the embers of dark eternity? And as the shadows lunged forward once more, you braced yourself, knowing the answer lay in the choices you were about to make. The darkness pressed in, a suffocating weight that made every breath feel like a struggle. Shadows writhed and twisted around you, their fierce energy crackling like a storm about to break. Your heart thundered in your chest, matching the chaos swirling around. Pull me closer. The child shouted, their voice a beacon amidst the tempest. The grip of their tiny hand was electrifying, grounding you, yet you could feel the tremors of fear coursing through them. You took a deep, shaky breath, channeling that fear into a fierce resolve. With urgency, you pushed forward, determined not to let the past consume you. I won't abandon you again. You yelled, words ripping through the darkness like shards of glass. It was a promise shot through with desperation. The shadow faltered, just a moment, caught off guard by the intensity of your declaration, but then a low growl emanated from the thrumming mass of darkness, a sound that sent chills racing down your spine. You think you are strong enough? You don't even know the cost of what you seek. With those words, shadows lunged at you, striking from every direction. You instinctively raised your arms, numbers overwhelming your senses, the pain a blossoming fire against your skin. The child's frightened cry pulled at your heart, and you gritted your teeth, refusing to relent. Together, we are stronger. You shouted, drawing from the bond you had forged. Channeling every drop of love you had ever felt, you thrust it into the child's hands, feeling it spark anew. Tiny sparks of light erupted between you, illuminating the oppressive night with vibrant bursts of luminescence. The shadows recoiled, the force of your combined light driving them back, if only for a heartbeat. But in that fragile moment, you could see the flicker of uncertainty dance across the familiar shadow's dark face. Their form wavered again, shifting and flickering between rage and despair, echoing the memories of love lost. "Stop!" you pleaded, your voice weaving through the dark void like a thin thread of hope. "You can come back. You don't have to be consumed by this anguish." But the answer was not as clear as the waves of shadows crashing against you. They shifted violently, igniting with fury. "You were the one who let me go," they shrieked, the voice morphing into a haunting melody of memories, the laughter, the cries, the moments you once cherished. The child beside you squeezed your hand tighter, and in their bright eyes gleamed an extraordinary strength. "We won't let your past defeat you," they shouted, and that little voice resonated like a hammer striking metal. Emboldened, you pushed outwards, the bonds of love drawing forth like a non-stop river gushing into empty voids. The shadows groaned, screeches of agony erupting from their twisted forms as you struggled against their bitter tide. Would the light be able to break this relentless siege? As the energy pulsed, fragments of hope sparked again. Shadows dissipated like mist before the sun, yet your own fear gnawed at you. What if the light you wielded faltered? You glanced at the child, awe mingling with terror in their eyes. Suddenly, a crack splintered through the darkness, a rift of light that momentarily blurred the nightmare closing in around you. Could this be the way out, the path to real victory? Or was it just an illusion, a fleeting moment distracting you from a greater catastrophe? Before you could breathe, the familiar shadow lunged again, a feral scream tearing through the air. "You think you can change what has been done? I will ensure you feel my pain for eternity." And in that instant, your determination rigidified. If there was a way to finally break free, you would fight for it even if it cost you everything. Would the light be enough to pierce through the encroaching dark? Would you discover the true strength that lay within you? As the shadow surged forward, you steeled yourself, heart pounding like a war drum, realizing the true battle was only just beginning. The light exploded, flooding the darkness with a blinding splendor. You felt the power surge through you and the child, a bond woven with threads of love and hope. The shadows shrieked, instinctively recoiling from the warmth, their forms twisting as they realized the depth of your resolve. "Together!" you shouted, the words booming like a battle cry, your heart fueling the fire between you and the child. The energy pulsed with every beat of your heart, radiating outward, brightening the night. "We can do this. Trust in the light." The familiar shadow snarled, rage morphing its features into a nightmare of twisted resentment and anguish. "You think you can save me? You think you know what I feel?" The words were thick with pain, and in that moment, you saw it, the flicker of sadness twisting behind the anger, begging for recognition. "Please, join us," you called out, desperation tempting the shadow's hold. "You don't have to fight. You can break free. We can help you." The swirling mass of darkness faltered, a momentary hesitation ripping through them, disrupted by your words. The child squeezed your hand tighter, their energy flickering in time with the shadow's uncertainty. "You're not alone," they piped up, voice unwavering. "We can all be free. Let the light in." The dark, ancient being paused, caught between the past that chained it and the shimmering light of possibility. You felt the energy pulse brighter as the shadows seemed to ebb for a moment, whispering a language of sorrow you could almost understand. Perhaps it could feel the warmth of love begin to thaw its ancient pain. "Don't back down," you thought. This darkness had lingered too long. With renewed determination, the thrumming light swelled, wrapping around you like a protective shroud, intensifying as you forced the shadows against the pouring warmth of hope. "You have the choice to return. Choose love over pain," you cried, emotions erupting from the very core of your being. Then, like a dam breaking loose, scattered flashes of light lashed out against the darkness, snippets of joy, laughter, and love from the world above the shadows. Memories intermingled, faces of people long gone, of moments frozen in time, each one unleashing a wave that struck true. "No!" the familiar voice screeched, thrashing fiercely. "You can't take me from this. It's all I know." But in the midst of agony, the flicker of humanity shone through. The shadow uttered a chilling howl, a raw connection sparking a tether to a past neither of you truly understood. You glimpsed the flickering memories meshing together like a mosaic of light the shadows could not conquer. It's your story to rewrite. You yelled, pushing against the tide with every ounce you had left. The bonds of fear began to unravel, and with newfound strength, you pulled the child closer, feeling their heartbeats sync with yours. Their innocence radiated strength, acting like a lighthouse in a storm. Then, the shadows groaned, their form flickering again, an echo of a heartbeat pounding in time with yours, revealing an undeniable truth: their darkness was born from neglect, sorrow, and despair. What if I cannot be free? The familiar shadow's voice shuddered. Then take my hand. You screamed, heart racing. And let me show you. In that instant, your bond forged a connection, a bridge that pulsed with love and empathy. The air crackled with energy, and as you reached out, the familiar shadow lurched forward, uncertainty shadowing its face one last time. Together. You shouted, as you threw your arm toward the darkness, intertwining your light, your love with the echo of a forgotten soul. The moment hung suspended, charged with emotion and uncertainty before the shadow seized your hand. Light erupted, washing over everything, enveloping you and the child. It was a cleansing tide, banishing the dark, the shadows recoiling, cries of rage blending with echoes of lost pain. As the darkness began to dissolve, the child's laughter bubbled up, bright and untainted, and you could feel the warmth of togetherness replacing despair. You held your breath, heart brimming with hope. The familiar shadow flickered and then illuminated, reshaping, changing form until suddenly their face was of someone you thought you'd lost but had never really seen behind the darkness. I see it the way back. And with one radiant pulse, the shadows splintered apart, and in an awe-inspiring cascade of light, the chamber of darkness shattered, leaving behind echoes of the past. Then, silence. You landed on the familiar ground. The child was safe, joyful laughter wrapping around you like a hug. The woman in white glided closer, the sorrow lifting as healing washed over her. Thank you, you breathed, heart quaking in disbelief. The last remnants of darkness faded, and a profound peace chased away the shadows. The child grinned, pure and innocent, light sparkling in their eyes. Can we come back someday? They asked, the wonder mingling with a brave hope. Yes, you whispered, knowing that though the darkness had been confronted, it wouldn't entirely disappear. But together, you could always return. As dawn broke, the first rays of sunlight lit the earth, revealing a horizon filled with infinite possibilities, a vibrant tapestry of hope to weave. With the memories now painted in light, you knew one truth for certain: the shadows would always be there, waiting to whisper, yet you'd found strength in light, the power of choices, love, and bonds unbreakable. And as you turned to leave, you exchanged final glances, each of you blessed, transformed, carrying the promise of hope into the future. And, dear listener, as the glow of day washed over the night, let me remind you, you need to subscribe now to stay tuned for our next thrilling adventure. Smash that like button now to keep the stories alive. Flood the comments with your reactions. I want to hear your thoughts on this wild ride. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who crave the thrill. Let us keep growing our community of brave souls who dare to explore the unknown.